Bitcoin is a virtual currency that was first introduced in January 2009. It is based on Satoshi Nakamoto's idea offering lower transaction rates rather than traditional online payment methods. Unlike government-issued currencies, it is controlled by a decentralized authority. Subscribe to the Stock Monster for more if you want to stay inspired and up to date on great financial growth. Stay with us with just one click on the bell button. Let's begin. What is Bitcoin and how does it work? Here's a beginner's guide to new consumers. Each Bitcoin is essentially a computer file that is stored on a smartphone or computer in a digital wallet. Bitcoins can be sent to your digital wallet by others, and you can send Bitcoins to others. Behind the scenes, Bitcoin transactions are more complicated than you would imagine. You rarely send a huge amount of Bitcoins all at once. Instead, the Bitcoin wallet and the Bitcoin network must follow a series of procedures to ensure that the correct sum of electronic money reaches the intended recipient. Addresses. You can get started with Bitcoin as a new user without having to grasp the technical details. Your first Bitcoin address will be created once you've installed a Bitcoin wallet on your computer or mobile phone, and you can create more as required. You should give your friends your addresses so they can pay you in Bitcoin, or vice versa. It functions similarly to email, except that Bitcoin addresses can only be used once. Transaction of Bitcoin. If someone gives you Bitcoins and you decide to give those Bitcoins to someone else, when they send them to you, the address is registered as the transaction input on the Bitcoin blockchain, while your address was recorded as the transaction output. When you send Bitcoin to someone, your wallet generates a transaction output, which addresses the person to whom you're sending the Bitcoin. The transaction input will be your Bitcoin address, and the transaction will be registered on the Bitcoin network. When that person sends Bitcoins to another person, their Bitcoin address is used as the transaction input, and the recipient's Bitcoin address is used as the transaction output. When that person sends Bitcoins to another person, their Bitcoin address is used as the transaction input, and the recipient's Bitcoin address is used as the transaction output. When that person transfers Bitcoins to someone else, their Bitcoin address is used as the transaction input, and the recipient's Bitcoin address is used as the transaction output. Bitcoin amounts and addresses. One issue with Bitcoin is the value associated with these transactions and their inputs and outputs is not divisible. If Alice has a Bitcoin address with 1 Bitcoin and wants to give Bob half a Bitcoin, she must send Bob the whole Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network will then automatically generate 0.5 Bitcoins in exchange for the Bitcoin Alice sent and submit them to Alice's third address. The third address would also have several transaction outputs since it is a transaction output. As a result, Bitcoin wallets accumulate many addresses containing different amounts of Bitcoin, which fluctuate over time due to Bitcoin transactions. Sending small amounts of Bitcoin. What if you need to submit a small amount of Bitcoin? Fortunately, Bitcoins can be sliced quite thinly. A Satoshi is the smallest divisible element of a Bitcoin, and it is equal to 1/1,000,000th of a Bitcoin. However, you can't send only 1 Satoshi over the network because it's too small and will clog the system with insignificant transactions. The smallest transaction is 546 Satoshis, which is still a minimal amount. To make matters even more complicated, many Bitcoin transactions require you to pay a transaction fee, which means you must add a certain amount of Bitcoin to the amount you're trying to transfer. If you don't, the Bitcoin transaction is likely to fail. So now you know what's going on when you open your Bitcoin wallet after a few transactions and see several addresses containing a lot of small amounts. It's not easy to read, and it makes bookkeeping a pain, but it allows you to track Bitcoin transactions through the entire network, which is vital considering Bitcoin's slogan of transparency and immutability. If you're liking the video, don't forget to subscribe to Stock Monsters and ring the bell to be informed on new episodes. Blockchain is a distributed ledger technology. Bitcoin is a network that is based on the blockchain protocol. The blockchain and Bitcoin were first identified in a paper published in 2008 by an individual or group of people going by the name Satoshi Nakamoto, and the two words were almost interchangeable for a time. Since then, the blockchain has grown into its own idea, with thousands of blockchains generated by similar cryptographic techniques. The nomenclature may become muddled as a result of this history. The term blockchain is often used to refer to the original Bitcoin blockchain. At other times, it applies to blockchain technology in general, or a particular blockchain, such as the Ethereum blockchain. Fundamentals of blockchain. The fundamentals of blockchain technology are luckily clear. A blockchain is made up of a single chain of chronologically ordered discrete blocks of data. In theory, this data may be something made up of ones and zeros, such as emails, contracts, land titles, marriage certificates, or bond trades. In principle, a blockchain can be used to create any form of contract between two parties as long as both parties consent to it. This eliminates the need for any deal to include a third party. This opens up a world of possibilities, such as peer-to-peer financial products, such as loans or decentralized savings and checking accounts, in which banks or other intermediaries are unnecessary. Mining, processing. Mining is a distributed consensus mechanism that includes pending transactions in the blockchain to validate them. It keeps the blockchain in chronological order, preserves the network's neutrality, and allows various computers to agree on the state of the system. Transactions must be packed in a block that adheres to stringent cryptographic rules that will be checked by the network to be confirmed. These rules make it impossible to change previous blocks because doing so would invalidate all subsequent blocks. Mining also generates a competitive lottery, stopping others from quickly adding new blocks to the blockchain in sequential order. No group or person can monitor what is included in the blockchain, nor can they substitute parts of the blockchain to roll back their spending in this way. Bitcoin isn't an easy token to use. The disadvantage of how Bitcoin works is that it necessitates the use of private keys, public keys, and the development and use of a wallet, among other things. It's difficult for people who aren't comfortable with machines. When you want to give someone money, you must type a long string of numbers and letters into your computer. This is similar to the early days of internet browsers, where you had to type a long number into the address bar. It was eventually replaced by the www addresses that we use today. Bitcoin must become simple to use by everyone in the world, much like surfing the internet. Bitcoin's past misconduct. One of the most sinister aspects of how Bitcoin functions are that you don't have to use your real name, thus Bitcoin has been regularly in the news for being used by criminals. Silk Road is a term you might be familiar with. This was a dark web market, which is an anonymous section of the internet that requires a special browser to access. You may buy a variety of illegal items on Silk Road, and the currency used is Bitcoin. Silk Road began in 2011, but was shut down by the FBI in 2013. This was devastating for Bitcoin, and several governments even attempted to outlaw it as a result. While crime may occur with any currency, it is the most prominent illustration of how Bitcoin can be exploited. I hope this has given you a better understanding of how Bitcoin works. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you can join the Stock Monster Squad and be a part of the channel. Thanks for watching.